In 2025, the United States stood alone, the only major global destination where international arrivals declined. 11 million fewer visitors came, and billions in travel spending never reached the economy. And now, early 2026 data shows something even more concerning. Instead of recovering from a weak year, inbound travel to the U.S. is falling again, extending last year's losses. When a market shrinks 2 years in a row, it's no longer a short-term dip. It becomes directional. Canada is down sharply again. Key European partners are posting double-digit pullbacks. Major Asian economies are showing sustained hesitation. This isn't a single headline or a regional blip. It's a broad shift across continents and long-standing partners. Today, we break down the 7 countries driving the 2026 decline, and why cooling demand for U.S. travel is becoming less about tourism and more about the global sentiment surrounding the United States right now. Number 1, Canada. For decades, Canada has been one of the largest sources of visitors to the United States. In 2025, that relationship fractured. Canadian travel to the U.S. collapsed, and early 2026 shows the rupture has only deepened. In January 2026, travel from Canada plunged another 28% year-over-year, extending the decline instead of reversing it. A national survey now shows that 62% of Canadians say they are less likely to visit the United States in 2026 compared to last year. Respondents point to political and cultural climate, trade rhetoric, border scrutiny, safety concerns, and a general cooling in sentiment as the reasons behind their hesitation. Florida, one of the most popular winter destinations for Canadian travelers, saw a 15% drop in 2025, and early 2026 booking and capacity data show that demand has not recovered. Airlines are adjusting fast. Between January and March, airlines cut roughly 450,000 seats from Canada to the United States, compared to the same period last year. WestJet has reduced its U.S. seat capacity by nearly 20%. Flair Airlines has cut almost 60% of its U.S. routes. When carriers pull back at that scale, they're responding to forward bookings, not headlines. Travel executives describe it as a redistribution of Canadian travel spending, warning that if sustained, it could permanently reshape where those dollars flow. What began as a sharp rupture in 2025 is continuing into 2026, and if summer demand fails to rebound, the impact could deepen even further. Number 2, Germany. Germany has long been one of the United States' most stable and high-spending European tourism markets. But in 2025, that stability weakened sharply. Germany sent roughly 225,000 fewer visitors to the United States compared to the previous year, a significant contraction for one of Europe's largest outbound travel markets. And early 2026 shows no rebound. Tourist arrivals from Germany in January fell another 12.3% year-over-year, extending the downturn into a second consecutive year. The shift is visible far beyond government data. Der Tour, Germany's leading North America tour operator, reported a double-digit slump in U.S. bookings and says the decline is still continuing. The company has been explicit. The political climate in the United States is suppressing demand, and based on current trends, they expect further declines ahead. At the same time, Germany's Federal Foreign Office updated its travel guidance for the United States, advising citizens to exercise increased caution amid concerns about demonstrations, political unrest, and immigration-related clashes. Germany is not a volatile outbound market. When it contracts at scale, and when its largest tour operators expect the downturn to deepen, it reinforces the broader pattern emerging across 2026. A cooling in sentiment, shaped by political tone and border perception, is now steering German travelers toward destinations they view as more stable and predictable. Number 3, Australia. Australia is another long-haul market showing clear weakness as 2026 begins. Tourist arrivals from Australia fell 15% in January, extending a slide that began in late 2025. The country logged 6 straight months of declines before the new year even started, meaning 2026 is starting from an already weakened base. What makes this shift more striking is that Australians aren't traveling less overall. In 2025, outbound short-term trips from Australia actually rose by 10%. The downturn is specific to the United States, not a sign of softer demand. New entry procedures are adding friction to a process that once felt effortless. Recent changes to ESTA, including proposed expanded data checks, have made many Aussies uneasy, especially around social media disclosure. One Sydney traveler even canceled a planned World Cup trip, saying the new questions weren't worth the hassle, a feeling echoed by others who view the direction of these rules as intrusive. Travel advisors are seeing the shift firsthand. Agencies report a sharp drop in U.S. bookings, with demand moving toward Europe, Japan, Africa, and Canada, destinations widely viewed as easier and more predictable. Australians are still traveling, just not to the United States, and that shift says a lot about where sentiment is heading in 2026. Number 4, China. China was once one of the most valuable long-haul tourism markets for the United States, a high-spending source of visitors that supported airlines, luxury retail, and major gateway cities from Los Angeles to New York. But that foundation has fractured. Visa processing delays and more stringent screening requirements have made U.S. travel feel increasingly cumbersome, especially compared to destinations offering visa-free entry. At the same time, discussions across Chinese social media have frequently highlighted concerns about visa uncertainty, border scrutiny, and personal safety, factors that are influencing where travelers feel most comfortable going. The shift is now unmistakable in the data. In January 2026, tourist arrivals from China fell 41%, one of the steepest drops among major markets. Chinese travelers are not staying home. Outbound travel from China is recovering, but increasingly toward Vietnam, Thailand, Europe, and parts of the Middle East, where entry rules are simpler and diplomatic relations are steadier. Overlaying this is a more cautious economic environment at home and ongoing trade tensions abroad, both of which shape discretionary travel decisions. When a market the size of China contracts at this scale while redirecting demand elsewhere, it signals more than short-term weakness. It reflects a structural realignment in global travel flows. Number 5, Denmark. Denmark's drop in early 2026 is one of the sharpest among Western allies, and one of the most politically charged. Tourist arrivals from Denmark fell 30% in January. For a small but historically stable transatlantic market, that scale of decline is significant. Unlike larger economies where declines can be attributed to aviation capacity or visa bottlenecks, Denmark's downturn has unfolded against a backdrop of diplomatic friction. Renewed U.S. rhetoric about Greenland, an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, triggered strong reactions across Danish political circles and media. What may have been framed as strategic commentary in Washington was received in Copenhagen as a direct challenge to sovereignty. Public sentiment shifted quickly. In smaller European countries, foreign policy tension often resonates more personally. The United States is not a distant superpower. It is a long-standing partner. When that relationship feels strained, it can subtly influence discretionary decisions like long-haul travel. A 30% contraction may not move global totals dramatically on its own, but symbolically, it matters. When even close Western partners begin pulling back at this pace, it reinforces a broader 2026 pattern. Shifts in tone are translating into shifts in travel behavior. Number 6, South Korea. South Korea is the third largest source of U.S. tourism in Asia, behind only India and Japan. Korean travelers come for shopping and national parks, for family connections and university ties, and for the deep business links between the two economies. It has traditionally been a steady, high-volume market, not one prone to dramatic swings. But in early 2026, that pattern is shifting. In January, tourist arrivals from South Korea fell 10.4% year over year, a double-digit decline from a market that typically sent more than 1.6 million visitors to the U.S. There has been no major diplomatic rupture between Washington and Seoul. Air connectivity remains strong. Visa access is still straightforward under the Visa Waiver Program. Yet competition in the region is intensifying. Japan and Southeast Asia offer shorter flights, favorable pricing, and simpler travel experiences. Exchange rate pressure and cost sensitivity are also shaping long-haul decisions. This isn't a collapse. It's erosion. And erosion in a market of this size carries weight. When even stable, strategically aligned partners begin to cool, it suggests the 2026 slowdown isn't tied to one dispute or one headline. It reflects a broader recalibration in how global travelers are weighing cost, comfort, and predictability when choosing the United States. Number 7, the Netherlands. The Netherlands may not be one of the largest tourism markets globally, but it is one of the most reliable European contributors to U.S. inbound travel. And in early 2026, that reliability is weakening. Tourist arrivals from the Netherlands fell 12% in January year over year, a double-digit contraction that extends a shift already visible in 2025. Last year, Dutch travel organizations reported a sharp drop in interest in U.S. trips. Surveys showed a growing share of Dutch travelers saying they were less inclined to visit, while booking data indicated significant declines in reservations compared to the previous year. At the same time, the strong U.S. dollar made American vacations noticeably more expensive for Dutch households. But cost alone doesn't explain it. Travel agents in the Netherlands have pointed to increasing concern around U.S. border procedures and expanded screening discussions, which have created uncertainty for leisure travelers weighing long-haul plans. Dutch travelers are still exploring North America and beyond, but more are choosing Canada, Southern Europe, and Asia over the United States. When even smaller but historically steady European markets begin pulling back at a double-digit rate, it reinforces what 2026 is making clear. This is not an isolated downturn. It is a broader cooling across allied nations. Across 7 countries, the same pattern keeps emerging. Global travelers are still moving, but the United States is no longer the automatic choice. It's not one issue. It's the cumulative weight of uncertainty, friction, and shifting sentiment. 2026 isn't drifting, it's pivoting. And unless the broader environment changes, this trend may deepen. Thanks for watching.